Hey, what's going on? Instagram. What's going on? YouTube. How's everybody doing today? Let's make sure the sound is popping. Mic needs to go up a little bit. All right. How's everybody doing? Let's tone this down. I'm melanated. I don't need all that light. let that natural stuff flow. You guys doing all right down there? All right. Welcome to Wealth Wednesday. The time is now 8:04. Thank you for having us. So today we are going to, again, I don't want to start shows like this every week because this is not how things are supposed to be. I wear black when I'm trying to, represent, value. There's no reason for us to have senseless killings again. Like last week, we talked about the shooting that happened in Buffalo, New York, my alma mater, my hometown, well, my second hometown. And now this week, there was a shooting in Texas. And every time this stuff happens, we have to literally stand in solidarity with the families. Like I was telling some people this week that if that was my daughter, that was my kid that happened to, you would have to, you'd have to get me because I would be going after things. That's just how it is. We've got to defend our own. And it's important that we take the time to really ask yourself, why are things like this? I can take this off because I can hear myself perfectly. Why are things like this right now? Why are we in a state of perpetual violence in this country? There's a lot of things that are happening right now that have nothing to do with logic and reason. It's just to do with the nature of humans being ridiculous and being, just terrible examples. So folks, I just want to say again, my heart and prayers go out to the families who lost their loved ones. You should never have to be in a position where you have to worry about your child when they're going to school to be educated. That should never be a thing. So just make sure that we're keeping those families in our prayers. All right. So today, our episode today is about a book called Medical Bondage. And this book we talked about last week. This is the book here. Medical Bondage, Race, Gender, and the Origins of American Genealogy by Deidre Cooper Owens. I've been reading this book over the last 7 days, and I'll honestly tell you I had no idea that gynecology, that's how it started in this country. Hopefully today we will have Dr. Tamara come on. And even if she can't come on, we'll probably have her soon because, again, she's one of the resources in our community that can definitely help to navigate this conversation and also understand from both perspectives, from, male perspective and a female perspective, what this actually did for the medical industry. Now, I will start off this conversation with asking you, if I said the antebellum era, okay, who would know what the hell that is? Antebellum era, right? That is a time between... It literally translates as time before the war. That's how it translates. So antebellum means before the war. And they're talking about the Civil War, which was from 1861 to 1865. Okay. This book was basically written about that time frame and in the beginnings of where gynecology started. I actually had a friend of mine who studied gynecology, and she wanted to help mothers deliver babies. That was just her thing. And I didn't know much about the practice until, years later, where now I'm like, wow, gynecology is like that. Okay, got it. It's a very important medical profession today. If you have ever delivered a child or had a sibling or you've had a kid or, you understand the importance of gynecologists. They literally help monitor the mother's health, make sure that any sort of surgeries that need to happen to deliver the child can happen in a safe manner in hospitals. And they continue to keep the women's organs as the forefront of their research, right? But how did that start, right? How did that begin? Who was the first gynecologist? And if you think about the antebellum era, which again is going to be from 1820 to 1861, that's the time frame that we're working with right now, okay? 1820 to 1861. The antebellum era, basically, this was a time where women didn't really have much of a say when it comes to the way the society moved. There weren't a lot of, females in positions of authority at that time, because again, back then it was a male-driven society. The first gynecologists were men. The first midwives were men. And it's a weird thing to think about it, because I know in our community, in Black and brown communities, midwives were always the elderly Black women of the tribe, right? They were always the midwives. But that was usurped by these men during this time, who then started to frame out the entire background, the backdrop for gynecologists and the study of, you know, female organs and reproductive health. Okay, so I am not a doctor. I have no medical professional. I have no medical degrees. My degrees are in business. So me talking about this is just strictly because I read a book, right? So one of the things that I want to bring out when it comes to this book, if you don't know where we were, it's going to be hard for you to figure out where we're going, right? That's just something that I know across the board in life. That's just like a life lesson, right? When I think about what Deidre Cooper Owens tried to show in this book, she tried to basically show the importance of Black women when it comes to the entire practice, development, the origins of gynecology. Black women were at the forefront of, like, literally they were the nurses. They were the aides to the surgeons. They were sometimes the surgeons themselves. They were the people that were being the subjects. They basically were used, and the entire idea of gynecology was because of Black women's bodies. So if you're a Black woman and you're listening to this call right now, I want you to understand that back in the 1820s, our ancestors who lived in this country, who had to deal with all of the acts of slavery, racism, brutality, all of the things that happened during the antebellum era, if it wasn't for their sacrifice and the sacrifice of their bodies, we wouldn't even have gynecology as it's practiced today. Period, full stop. So Black women, tip my hat to you again, because again, society and history is continuing to show how important and vital you've been in our society's development. They always talk about how Black people created, you know, this country. They built it from scratch, and the indigenous people that were here before colonists came were Black and brown individuals. They talk about how we built this country up. They talk about the importance of our contributions to America, but they never talk about our women and their contributions to the actual infrastructure of gynecology. This book talks to that. It's a 5-hour read. If you guys have Audible, I would definitely recommend that you take a look at Audible and take a read. I think I'm in chapter 4, chapter 3, maybe chapter 4. I have like maybe an hour left before the book is done. But the gist of what I've read, I'm going to share with you so that you guys can get an idea of what this book talks about and the importance of why we need to value our women a lot more than we do, because we don't even understand the sacrifices that they've had to make to keep us in the position that we're in right now. You know, a lot of, you know, when you look at our society and our communities, most of our households are run by strong Black women. That's what my generation, going from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, that's what we typically see in Black households, right? The role of the father wasn't as predominantly during those times because of mass incarceration, all those other social norms that were designed to destroy our families. But prior to that, we were in a family structure. Prior to that, we had faithful relationships. Prior to that, we created the best out of nothing. And without our men and our women working together, we wouldn't even have anything that we have today. But again, we have to understand the roles that each played during these times, because that gives us a deeper found respect for each other. One of the things that I want us to continue to build in our community is more respect for each other, and to continue to understand that we are complementary roles of, you know, like we're both two halves of a whole, right? The Black woman and the Black man, two halves of a whole. So during the antebellum era, so this is chapter 2, Black women's experiences in slavery. So during the 1820s and 30s, right, there were a lot of slave owners that had, you know, again, this was right after. So let me backtrack. You have to understand the genealogy of why this became a thing, right? So slavery was here in America, but the transatlantic slave trade stopped, right? It stopped in like the early 800s. Okay, so everyone that had slaves prior to that, so like 1805, 1810, around there, if you had slaves domestically in America at that time, you weren't able to get new slaves from other places. You weren't able to get African slaves over the ocean back into your possession, because that was banned. So what these colonists had to do that were here is they had to create a breeding program that allowed them to replicate their slave labor in order to continue to build up the economy of America, right? And that goes to cotton, like picking cotton, that goes to all of the industries that were here, building railroads, digging up, the caves. There was a gold rush on the West Coast. All of the things that helped to build the infrastructure of America were happening at that time, right? The antebellum era. And at that time, the most important product produced was slave labor, literally. So again, we're going from 1820 to 1861. Slave labor was the most important part of society. Peace, goddess, what's going on? Nice to have you join us. I see the doc is in the house. Good to see you, Congolese Kells, Mortal Group. What up? What up? Love deprived. 89. What's going on? Nice to see you. The life of Miss D. Oh, hey, what's up? Nice to see you join us. Okay, Your Highness, Mr. Major. What up? What up? Peace. Okay, so during that time between 1820 and 1861, right? This was a time where slave labor was the most important labor that this country had. So what plantation owners had to figure out was, how do we mass produce more slaves, bigger, stronger, more receptive to being led in a certain direction? And how do we create an environment where there's going to be, enough labor force to go forward, since we cannot import slaves from anywhere else? So gynecologists became important because, and they didn't even have a term at that time. They were just literally surgeons that would start using their Black slave women to create surgeries and procedures that would help white women when they were delivering children. So again, slavery was the most important thing, right? So when a woman was of childbearing age, right, that was the most important woman on the plantation, period. Them and the biggest, strongest men that are on the plantation, those two people, and they would interbreed them to create as much, live, people as possible to help fulfill their desire for slave labor. Okay, so women having children became an important protected situation. These colonists needed to understand, like, how do we make sure that they make it and survive through, pregnancies, and also they're able to continue to produce children successfully and in a healthy way. Now, back then, there was a lot of, sexual crimes that were committed against Black women at that time. There were a lot of, really lewd acts that were perpetrated upon Black women at that time. And Black men didn't have an opportunity to do anything different because they were getting themselves in the same situation, same lewd acts, same sexual deviant behavior from the colonists and the slave masters at the time and the plantation owners, and just brutalization of both Black men and women at that time. You guys have to understand that the brutalization that our ancestors felt is still programmed in your DNA. And sometimes we have to address that is there in order for us to purge it. Address that there are certain instances of trauma that you've experienced on a genetic level from your ancestors that you have to understand they went through, because they want you to know that they did it for you to be able to have the life that you have today, right? Cool. So in this book, the author talks about how Black women who would have difficult pregnancies, how these white doctors would start utilizing them, and literally started using cesarean sections began around that time, different medical procedures to actually help create healthier vaginal openings for babies to come through. Their first hysterectomy was done back then as well on a Black woman. They would use Black women's bodies as actual, when they've deceased, to actually cut them open and actually study the female reproductive organs, because by them using the bodies of their Black slaves to understand how the female reproductive system worked, they were able to then have successful surgeries with white women that were there back then. So so the contribution to medical surgery back then came from Black women and Black women's bodies, period. Now, one of the things that people don't talk about, and this book really lays this out, is the idea that the surgeons would use their Black slave women as not only subjects, but also nurses' aides during these surgery and procedures. As a matter of fact, I have a picture of one of these so-called stations that was used. Take a look at that. See, this is James Marion Sims. He was actually one of the surgeons that has written a lot of articles in a lot of medical journals about many of these different procedures. And this was the women's hospital that he basically worked out of. Photographed in 1895. courtesy of Reynolds Historical Library at the University of Alabama in Birmingham. Okay, that's what the facility looked like. It looks like a shack compared to today's facilities, right? But what they did was they created an operating room where the wooden planks were easily cleaned, and that's why you can see like the gap between the ground and the first floor. So if there was a lot of blood or things like that, they could just like hose it down, clean it off, and just continue to work, right, in a clean environment. But that was the types of facilities that were basically run by black slave women, along with the surgeons. And think of like a nurse practitioner, right? These slave women that would learn these medical procedures from these white doctors who are going in and creating these surgical procedures, they would literally take these skills with them back to their families and back to their actual plantation, because a lot of these women didn't come from the same place. They came from different plantations depending on their ailments. So let's say you had a woman on a plantation 10 miles down that was having a complication with her pregnancy. Another woman that was maybe another plantation over having an issue with her vaginal opening or whatever the case is. These different women would be brought into this type of facility. And the surgeon at the time, which was Mr. Sims, he would be utilizing their bodies for surgery. But then the women that weren't on the table were assisting him with getting the scalpel, getting the cleaning products, making sure that they're taking care of the women. So there was a lot of midwives that were a part of this process, and they learned a lot of surgical techniques. So when their era was over, let's say they had a child, let's say the surgery was done and they were finished, these women will go back to their original plantations with all of their skills and become even more skilled labor. So the beginning of midwifery, right, happened before this time frame, but it was pushed into a different stratosphere because midwives were just women who were used to just using natural remedies, natural taught things from their family and their parents to understand, how to deliver a child, right? Well, now these midwives and folks who are going through this, these Black women, they now learn the technical skills of how to actually create cesareans, how to deliver babies through vaginal openings with the right tools. Like, they became surgeons to some degree. And when they went back to their plantations, they were able to utilize those same tools and skills and tricks with the other folks in their community, because that was something that they did. So this was a really cool, that was a really cool thing that came about from this, even though it's a very tumultuous kind of time. And that's a cool thing that came out of it, is the fact that a lot of Black women that had to experience, this level of sensitivity when it comes to, medical procedures, they were able to learn from these surgeons and then take that skills back and teach their family, their kids, people that are around them about how to deliver children in a safer way. So it was a really cool book. So what I'll tell you guys is, overall, I would say, learning more about the time and the brutality and the violence, but then also the beautiful things that came out of those times. It just makes you look back at your life and say, damn, like, you don't have it that bad comparatively. You know what I mean? Like, there was a story about one of the slave women who, she had to, have a act in front of the plantation owner's friends and himself. She had to have a sexual act with another slave, and they actually had intercourse and they became married basically after that point. And from then, her and that gentleman buried multiple children, and she grew to love him. And it talks about how that's how it had to be back then. It wasn't as if they had a choice, but they still were able to make something beautiful out of something so disgusting. And I want you guys to know, for everyone that you hear, when we talk about these times, we don't like to talk about all of the bad and just leave out any of the good things. It's like, we've got to look at everything in its totality. This was a time in this history, in this country's history, that was disgusting, despicable, and that's white people. That was what they were doing back then. That's just how it was. Right? That's how society was designed. Black bodies were not respected. Black bodies were not treated any old way. It was just, again, this is what the society was based on. However, we know differently now. And I think that we've come a long way from this time frame. And now look at us, now we're doctors, surgeons, gynecologists, and the whole nine. Why? Because we are able to learn and grow from these experiences. So I would say definitely book number 1 was definitely worth the read. I'm not done yet. I will finish it tonight. But just to see the contribution of Black women and what they did in this society, it just made me feel really like humbled and honored to be able to say, hey, Black women, like, we got you. Like, we appreciate you guys. It's our job to protect y'all as best we can. And, there was a video that I sent this week where a Black woman was being assaulted at a gas station, right? And There was a brother in the back watching this take place, and he didn't do anything. And I'm gonna tell you, brothers, right now, it's important that if you see something like that, that you protect our women. Period. By whatever means necessary, protect them. Things are getting more violent. Life is changing as we know it. And it's important that we all start to see that we're all a part of a whole. You know, what happened in Texas this week was disgusting. It was not even, I don't even have the words to describe how evil that was. And the fact that these innocent kids, you know, they didn't deserve that. It just goes to show you that the world that we're moving into is a world of more violence than what we've seen so far. And that is going to continue to happen. This is not isolated things. These things are going to continue happening. So I need everybody to understand that there's one mission. That mission is get through this together and to make sure that we keep everything in check in our end. You know, I'm glad I wasn't there because I'm just, I don't know that level of, you know, anger that I would have had. Lord knows not to put me in those positions, but one day it could be me. One day it could be you. And what are you going to do about it? Right. So I will say that about that. All right. So folks, I want to talk to you guys about one more thing. I'm going to share my screen on YouTube. Let's see here. Do I have share screen? I think I have the window up already. Antebellum period. I think it should be this one. Yeah. Let's share this. Okay. So I've been looking up some stuff. So you guys, so this is going to be the stock market section real quick. Let's talk about it. So most of you who followed our channel, you understand that we do financial literacy. You know that we do relationships and philanthropy, but you know, we do financial literacy. We haven't talked financial literacy in a while, so I'm going to jump into that right now. Right. So the stock market has been doing poop, right? It's been doing poop for this whole year, right? And that's to be expected. We mentioned this before, but I'm going to say it again. There is a recession coming because economic factors are forcing that to happen. Right now, we have a COVID lockdown in China. China is one of the biggest producers of goods and services in the world, and they're not producing goods right now, which means that all the prices of the goods that are on your shelves will go up due to inflation because there's not enough supply. Okay, supply and demand work in that way. When there's an oversupply of things, the price goes down. When there's an undersupply of things, the price goes up. When there is an over demand for something, the prices go up. When there's an under demand for thing, prices go down. Now, how they correlate with each other, if you have a high demanded product and you have the ability to get it, so it's stocked in the shelves. It's highly demanded, stocked in the shelves, prices will go up if you need to. Right? If it's no longer stocked in the shelves and it's in high demand, prices are going to go up because again, it's scarcity. We are in a process right now of scarcity, and it's designed scarcity. This is not random. It's not random. It's designed scarcity, and it's forcing you to see your portfolio look like crap, right? Because again, folks are seeing a lot of indicators that are making profits not look the same. I looked at my portfolio the other day. It's down like 40%, 50% year over year. And I'm okay with that because I know that my idea was long-term. Regardless of what the price of the stocks are, I can get more value right now for the same shares. There's a stock that I'm watching right now. And I remember buying this stock at, what prices did I buy this at? This was, let's go 5 years ago. I bought this stock at $19. Back last year, right? Stock were $19 in June 21, 2021, right? Well, not 19. Let me see. I bought it around here, June 7th, right? And that stock right now is priced out at $1.05, $1.01 right now, right? So from $19 down to $1. That's its current market price. Okay, so that portfolio is looking like trash right now, correct? Correct. But again, if you're long-term and you think long-term like me, I'm going to buy for $20. I'm going to get 10 shares of this same stock that back last year I would have had to pay. How much, guys? If it's $1 now and it was $20 back then, right? So for $20 now, I can get 20 shares of that stock. When I first bought that stock, I got one share for $20. You see that? 1 to 20 difference, which means that if I only bought 10 shares back then, which I only did, I didn't buy a lot of shares of it, 10 shares, I could literally replace those shares by just spending $10 right now, right? Now, here's the beauty of this. I don't know if the economy is going to get back soon. I don't know if it's going to rebound quickly. I think with inflation being the way that it is, wars, rumors of wars, things happening with COVID, the scarcity happening, we may not be able to get a rebound anytime soon. It may take 3 years, 4 years, 5 years for this thing to bounce back. It may take some time. But if that stock price, let's say it moves from $1 to $2, I've made 50% profit in every share that I bought today, right? And that's what I mean. Like, it's one thing to see your stock portfolio drop. It's another thing to be stuck in that. You don't have to. So for that same stock that I'm looking at, and this is higher car. I can even pull you the HYRE. We can look up the stock right now. HYRE. Let's look it up, and I'm going to pull this up in a second. Let's close that. Let's close that. And let's go to this. Where is it? Here we go. Where's my window? Here we go. Okay, let's go to Finance at Yahoo. Boom. Let's look up higher car real quick. Okay, boom. This is a stock that I bought last year on the 21st, and we had a whole case study on higher car, right? Look at their stock price. Okay, folks, you can see me here. You can see this. Okay. So their stock price, I'm going to go back 5 years. Right here, June 21st, $20. Around here is when I bought it. Between the 14th and 21st, I bought it anywhere around here. I got it for like $19, right? The stock price for this thing right now is $1, right? You guys have to understand. I'm not saying that this company is going to stay in business. I'm not saying that they're going to be profitable going forward, because I just don't know. When you think about what's happening going forward, everything is up in the air. You really can't tell what's going to happen. However, you've already lost the money. I've already lost, $20 down to $1. It's not fully lost because I haven't acknowledged the loss by selling out my shares. Cool. But on my books, it looks terrible. But you got to remember, this is an accumulation game. The game is not about the share price. It's about how many shares of it do you own. So right now I have 10 shares of higher car. And by Friday, I'll probably have 100 shares of higher car. Why? Because at $1 a clip, right? I spent $20 on 10 shares, $200. That's what I spent, right? For $100 more, I'm going to get 100 shares of higher car stock. If the price moves by $1, that means that my 100 shares that's worth $100 is now worth $200. Remember, I spent $200 to begin with to get the 10 shares of stock at $20 a piece, right? Cool. So I've already spent 200. I spent an additional 100 now. And if the stock price moves by $1, I've made back my entire loss. You see that? That is the beauty of looking at these things from a quantity standpoint and not a price standpoint. I don't know what your portfolio has in it, but I'm pretty sure that whatever you purchased is lower than it was before. The goal is to pick up more shares at these prices now so that you are going to be better prepared for what's to come. Now, when I ask you what's to come, right? Remember, on the way we do things is we invest like economists, which means that we have to understand the nature of the economy in order for us to make a decision, to make a choice. So right now, the economy is in a state of decline, right? We have hyperinflation. We have gas prices soaring. We have OPEC refusing to raise their distribution of oil. We have Russia no longer selling its oil. We have China no longer producing goods and services. We have a shortage of products and goods and services here. We have farmers having to dump their farm crops because, again, there is a created supply issue or lack thereof, a scarcity issue being created here. So what does that mean for you? Here's my advice, right? The first thing that you should do, everybody that's on this call, first thing you should do, start looking at your portfolios and see which stocks have lost the most amount of money and ask yourself, are these companies going to fold and become bankrupt in the future that's to come that has scarcity as a part of it? If they can't survive the next 5 years, you don't want them in your portfolio, but you don't get to sell them out. If they're going to go bankrupt, then you can sell out and cash out, take your losses then. But if they're not going to be bankrupt, I would implore you to take some cash that you have, put a little bit on those stocks. That way you're lowering your cost per share of the stocks in your portfolio, and that you can prepare yourself for a rebound, hopefully for any of those stocks, right? That's the first thing I do. The second thing I do is I would start diversifying the cash that you have into things that are of value, whether that be gold, real estate, land, whatever, natural resources. Like, it's time to start buying things with your cash that have value, right? There's a group called Hereafter Farms that are buying out land and having people move into these, these areas where they have their own land, they have their own communities being built up. And places like that, you will spend $33,000 to get a plot over there, have your house built there, get your crops up. But guess what? If something happens to the food industry, you have access to a community that grows food. You have access to people that can actually help to create the things that you need right there on the spot. We have to start thinking of ourselves as one man and one woman shows when it comes to what we want from this society. Because if you are not self-sustaining by now, if you don't have a bug out plan, if you don't have resources where you can instantly go and get them and not have to worry about the electrical system or an ATM working or Wi-Fi, like, you have to have access to a lot of goods and services at your fingertips right now. Because as things get worse, scarcity will be worse. That's where we're heading, guys. We're heading to a space where we're going to get hit with a recession. We're going to get hit with scarcity of products, food, services, those types of things. And if you're not prepared, it's going to be hard for you to get prepared. So I would implore you guys to start looking at your closets, looking at your cupboards, your cabinets, your food storehouses, and start asking yourself, what items do I think I would need in the event that something happened globally and I couldn't get access to the things that I need? What would I have to have on hand right now that would protect me in the event that society collapses? You've got to think that way now, because if you don't, you're going to be the same people that are caught up and having to fight your way through mobs at the grocery store just to get a bag of rice, right? Do you guys even know where rice comes from, or how wheat is created? Like, have you even studied how to replant the seeds of the same fruits and vegetables that we throw out when we're cooking? These are the little types of skills that are going to be crucial going forward, because I look at green peppers, right? And you know how like the inside has all the seeds in it and you just never really consider harvesting the seeds of a green pepper? I'm learning how to do that now. And I don't even like chopping vegetables, but I'm learning to do that now, because we throw out things that should never be thrown out. We go shopping at Whole Foods, a lot of organic food that you get. No one ever thinks about replanting that. Why not? Do you even know how to harvest those things? Do you know how to harvest corn? Do you know how to harvest bananas? Do you know how to harvest peppers, beans, peas? Do you know how to create, like, even with navy beans that I eat? There was one time where I had soaked them in water for maybe 2 hours, 3 hours. I took the water out and I put them in a bag in the fridge, just temporarily as I would cook them, right? And they started sprouting. I was like, they sprout? Oh, so these beans are actually alive. Like, they're alive. You literally can create an entire bean batch just by taking beans, sprouting them, planting them. We have to understand that our food can create more food if we know how to harvest, how to plant, how to have natural remedies for things. And going forward, that's going to be the nature of what happens next. Like, we have to be ready for self-sustenance. Self-sustenance is key. Like I tell people all the time, the next car I buy will be electric. Why? Because I can use my solar panels to charge my car. Like, I'm literally trying to eliminate all usefulness of a society that doesn't even care about myself, anyone that looks like me or you. And we need to be in a space where we understand the nature of the game. Don't say you don't know. Heavy Maze, what's up, brother? Like, again, if you don't follow Heavy, please, that's my brother, that's my guy. Please follow him. He has wisdom beyond measure, and I think his book is already out. Heavy, is your book out already? Because I have to cop a copy, sir. Let me know if that book is out, because I want my copy. So, people are out here with information about ancient history, information about ways of doing things the right way. And Heavy, my brother, is one of them. We have to connect with folks. We have to get together and understand that this world that we're in right now, it's temporary, because things are going to have to change in order for us to sustain ourselves. It's not going to be something that we can do, hoping that the American government does things. That doesn't work that way. So folks, Let us get into a conversation. I want you guys to talk this way with your friends. Like, talk this way to your family members. Talk this way to the people in your house. You need to start having real conversation with folks and saying, hey, if something were to happen, what would be your plan? Where would you go? What would you eat? What would you do? How would you protect yourself? Do you have any type of martial arts? Do you know how to defend yourself against a weapon? How to defend yourself against someone that's coming at you? Like, are your hands good? Like, what would you do? So I mean, like, so for me, like, I don't need to walk around with a weapon because I'm a weapon. I'm the weapon. Like, as long as I'm around, I'm good. You better like shoot me from a distance. If we get into hand-to-hand combat, it's a wrap. And that's how we have to keep ourselves in the right space. Like, I go to the gym probably twice a week, 3 times a week, and I see the brothers in there pushing weight, pumping iron, boxing, kicking, doing all kinds of stuff. It's like we're getting ready for something. Like, it's like everybody knows that something's coming, but no one's talking about it. Why aren't we talking about what's coming, guys? Why is everyone just pumping iron and getting strong? Like, what are we doing this for? We're doing this because we see what's happening. There are things coming that we have to be prepared to do. And I think in the future, protection is going to be something that's not going to be about bullets and your aim, because you can't predict when something violent is going to happen. Like right now, you just have to be ready. I have a buddy who has nunchucks in his pockets at all times. Nunchucks, not like Michelangelo nunchucks. That's what he carries in his pocket, and he just walks around with it. He's like, "Yo, listen, I don't know what's going to happen, but if you have a knife, I have my nunchucks. Boom." He's like, "I have range. I could knock you out with this easily." That to me is a man that's ready for anything, and we have to be that way. Not because we want to be violent, but we have to understand that this world is violent, y'all. The world that we live in is actually violent. Think about the slap, right? Will Smith walking up to Chris Rock and slapping him. There's actually a video about why that could have been fake. Because Will actually walked to a certain point on the stage, looked down, and then slapped him. Like, he was looking at his feet to make sure that he was in the right camera position to then slap Chris Rock. And if you look at Chris didn't really, like, he braced himself to get hit. If you see him, look at the mechanics. Like, I after seeing that video, this gentleman, he's a stage person. He understands, he's acted before, and he proposed this idea. He's like, listen, that was staged because, everyone had to hit their mark. Chris planted his foot on a certain part of the stage and didn't move from there. Will walked up looking down the entire time to make sure that he hit his mark, and then he got up and he slapped him. I'm like, okay, that's a perfect example of how violent things can be, right? Things can be violent anytime. However, my takeaway is this. If that wasn't staged and that type of thing was about to happen, right? Anybody that's approaching me, I'm assuming that you're going to be violent, especially if I'm, you don't walk up to somebody without saying a word to just kiss them on the cheek. Like, that's not what I'm assuming. My first assumption is I'm gonna put my hand out and be like, yo, like, step back. Like, why are you getting close? Don't get close to me. You're in range now. Once I can touch you, I can hit you. So if I put my hands on you like this, hey, yo, what are you doing? Like, step up, step back. We have to understand that we need to be prepared. We need to be prepared for anything. And one thing I'll say to you too is if you're in a violent situation where somebody has an AK-47 or a handheld Glock or something like that, right? I need you to understand that those guns need to have reload. You remember in the video games where, like, you'd be playing those video games, and if you forget to click away from the screen to reload your gun, you're just going to get shot up and beat up. That happens in real life too. You don't have a lot of time for a reload. You probably have all of 4 seconds, 5 seconds max, right? Listen to the cartridges. Most cartridges right now have anywhere from 15 to 20 bullets in it. 15 to 20, right? Per cartridge. So listen, when you hear it getting low, you hear 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18, 19, start, like, in my head. Again, I think differently than some of you. I'm counting bullets because I know you have a 20 clip, and I'm going to be moving towards you because when I hear the 20th clip go click, click, I have to have you in my sight. I have to see you. I'm going to throw a can at you. I'm going to do whatever I got to do because y'all got to, like, be ready. You have to be ready. There are going to be more folks with guns and AKs, and they don't have clips that are more than 15 or 20 rounds. Like, that's the legal round limit. Like, you don't have more than that. So anybody that's coming in with an AK or whatever, they have a certain amount of rounds. Be ready and be in position for that. So, after, and I saw the tape in Buffalo, I did see how he did that, and it's disgusting. And like I said, a lot of people run from those situations, right? Like, they run away and they try to save themselves. I'm not built like that. I'm not built to run away from that shit. And I told Alexia this, and I'm gonna tell you guys this online. If I hear shit like that happening and I'm there, I'm thinking about the fact that I'm usually here with my family. I'm usually with my daughter, and my spouse. Like we're all here together at the grocery store. So there's no way in hell that I'm going to run when they're here. All it takes for him to go on an island, just cap, and he's done. So for me, it's like I have to now prepare. And Kevlar is fine, but there's holes in Kevlar because all of this right here is open. Your neck is open. If I can get to within reach of your hands, I'm grabbing you and I'm going to beat the sense out of you. Like there will be if you make it out of there alive, then God bless you. But chances are, if we get our hands on you, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Why? Because I'm not trying to keep your life. Like I'm not here to spare your life. I'm here to end you because you're trying to kill my family and myself. No, here to end you. We have to have a very clear understanding. And they teach us in martial arts, like you can't second guess whether or not you're willing to take a life. Can't second guess it because the time you're thinking about it, you'll get killed. And I know soldiers think the same way. They don't think about, oh, well, let me just try to shoot him in the leg to see if he lives. No, I'm going to shoot wherever I know I'm going to hit. How the soldiers think, right? We've got to be the same way and be just as resolved with our decision to say, hey, if someone's trying to threaten you, what are you willing to sacrifice? If the security gentleman, he tried to stop this guy. He tried to stop him, but he got taken out early through the glass. He didn't even get a chance to defend anything, right? So my thing is, as citizens of a violent place like America, why don't we invest in bulletproof anything? Why don't you have a bulletproof vest? Why don't you own that? Why don't you own Kevlar in your home? Like, why don't you have, there's actually a backpack that has a bulletproof shield on it where the back has a shield and there's a little pull that you pull over and now you have the front shield. So now your vital organs are protected, right? Something as simple as that. We don't even carry that around. Why not? Why don't you think that could happen to you or that happened in the place that you're at? It can, and it will. And going forward, because of scarcity, because of the economic downturn, people losing their money, people losing their shirt, their jobs, their ability to be with their families, depression is going to set in. A lot of these things are happening for many different reasons. People are unhinged. Our society is unhinged right now. And folks who are in that type of QAnon mentality where they think that they need to save the white race, they need to save, or white supremacy is dying and black people are coming in and brown people are taking our jobs and da-da-da. There's a level of white supremacist racism rhetoric that is out there that is brewing under all of this, right? Understand that as a black and brown person, that is not in your benefit. That does not favor you. So how do you combat that? Go to the gym, work out, learn a martial art, learn to box, learn to kick, learn to run, learn to have good endurance. Learn how to disarm somebody that has a weapon. Practice that. Get a butter knife. Get your friend out. Say, hey, yo, hold this butter knife for me. I want to, and do something and see if I can let me see if I can knock it out your hand and do something. Learn techniques. I'll show you a really simple technique, right? I'm going to show you a really easy one. If somebody has a knife, typically they try to stab you straight, right? They try to do a straight stab. They don't ever usually come around unless they're like that jailbird thing where they just want to come around and hit you in the ribs or whatever. Okay, cool. Typically, if you're at range, someone that has a knife is going to try and come underneath and try and stab you with a knife, right? Okay, cool. When a knife attack happens, and I'm not a knife attack specialist, I'm not, but chances are the knife is in a certain hand, the other hand is free, right? Think of it as you have two weapons and they have one, because most people with knives never punch with the off arm. Right? So I want you to start thinking of every interaction like an actual boxing match. You ever see boxers fight? They'll spend the first 2 minutes just squaring off and trying to see if they can get a twitch and see what you're doing. They're doing all this, right? And it looks like they're doing nothing, but they're actually trying to create a rhythm. They're trying to create and see where they can get in. They're trying to find an opening. But to us who doesn't box, you don't see that. But boxers know that, and they can tell. They look at the footwork, they look at the ranging, they're going back and forth, and they're sending out jabs to see the range. That's what boxers do. They analyze everything up front. If you're in a situation like that where you have the time to analyze a person and the weapons that they carry or whatever the case is, first things I'm going to teach you this one. A knife stab is usually going to come straight at you, right? Okay. Most people like to stab you in the chest, body area, because that's where they're going to stab you. They're not going to usually stab you in the arms or in the thing. They're going to look for your body, right? So in Kung Fu, we have a way of blocking any body attack with one move. And it looks like this, right? So basically this goes atop the front and this goes across the bottom. So they both move across so that by the time it's done, you've already cleared whatever's coming your way. So a simple way to stop a knife attack is you just use whichever arm they have. Okay, so if my knife attack is coming from, they have that in their right arm, because most people are right-handed, right? They have the knife in their right hand. That means that the knife attack is coming from this side. Okay, so I'm going to use this hand, my mirror hand. So they're coming from the same side. So I'm using the hand that's mirrored their knife hand, and I'm going to use my opposite offhand, and I'm going to just bring it across. I'm going to wait for them to try and strike me with the knife and bring all of it across, meaning their knife is going to get sent sideways, and I'm going to have them exposed. And then I'm going to grab their wrist and punch them in the face. It looks like I said it like it was simple, but it actually is very simple. You're taking this arm to cover the top. You're taking this arm to cover the bottom at the same time. So you're just doing this right across. Whenever they try to strike, you just right across. And as you're touching them, because again, if the knife is high, this arm will touch it. The knife is low, this arm will touch it. Doesn't matter which one. Okay. If it's high and I'm touching their arm, I'm just going to drop this arm to grab them. Boom. Right in their face. If it's the low side, I'm going to move their arm. Boom. Punch them with this hand. Doesn't matter which hand. Whichever hand creates contact with them, the other hand's going to punch them. So check this out. I need a prop here. Let's have a prop. This is going to be worthwhile. I'll use the mic as I can't use the mic as a prop. I can't use this prop. Okay, let's visualize with me, folks. Just try to visualize. We'll do the top and the bottom. So the top, right? Knife's coming from the right hand, their right side. This is my left hand, okay? If it's coming high, I'm just bringing their hand, because it's coming this way, I'm just bringing their hand away from me to this side, right? And I'm going to counter it by grabbing, as I bring it, I'm bringing it over and dropping my hand down to hold their arm. And then I'm just doing this, okay? So again, it looks very simple. Boom, boom. See that? Boom, boom. Easy. Hand across. If it's high, you just drop your hand down to hold. Boom. And you're not going to grab their hand. You're just going to like literally bring their arm down out of the way because the knife is there, right? And you're going to aim directly at their nose, maybe their eye, because you can't stab what you can't see, right? So aim for this area. Now, if it's low, same thing. High hand, low hand. Goes across, right? If my hand touches that knife on the low side, so now I'm moving it with there. I can't grab them now. I can't grab their knife. I can't grab their arm because the knife is going this way. It's being moved by my elbow away. But what's happening is I'm clearing them out so that I can just do this. So again, here, going across. That's it. That's all I'm doing. Going across, going across, going across. Either side. Doesn't matter which side. Going across. Doesn't matter which side. I'm either doing it this way. I'm doing it this way. Doesn't matter. I'm doing it this way. Same thing. If this hand touches, I'm just dropping. Boom. If this low hand touches, I'm coming across. Boom. I'm not wasting time. You guys have to practice martial arts. You have to practice the art of moving power, moving energy, because when it comes down to it, it's going to be a hand-to-hand situation. Bullets are going to run out, right? Because think about it. Even when I tell you about like the whole reload situation, you know an AK is going to have anywhere from 15 to 20 rounds, period. Standard New York State. So after 20 rounds are up, it's going to be a hand-to-hand combat at that point. So if you can't get your hand to that person, distract them, throw something at them, literally like try to get yourself into a position where you can spring on them, where they don't see you. If you see them coming down, you see people getting murdered out, go near the aisle, try to stick. Like there are so many different things that we never practice because we don't think that we're in a war zone, but we're in a war zone right now. So you guys have to really be mindful of these things. And I'm surprised this is where the conversation went because I was trying to go here, but we're here. The second one that I'll show you is, so we have the full, like that's called full gong sao. That's what it's called, to like literally protect against something. But the next one I'll tell you is this one called pak sao. Okay. And you know, this is Kung Fu stuff. You can YouTube this if you want to, it's everywhere, but knowing how to do it is different. But I think it's a really useful thing for folks who are trying to just get, you know, out of a difficult situation. And if you're tall, it works really well. Just bringing your hand down on someone's, you know, on their arm or on their punch or whatever, and following it with a punch, right? No matter which side, it's just hand comes down and then you follow it with a punch, hand comes down, follow with a punch. It's a very easy thing. You can Google pak sao. It's spelled Paksau. And I think, again, anybody that is getting into a hand-to-hand combat situation, you have to train that. You have to learn the timing of it. You have to learn how to move and like get, block and hit at the same time. It's a very easy thing. And if you see on YouTube, like you see how smooth that looks? See how smooth that looks? All I'm doing is I'm protecting my face and then I'm punching you. Boom, at the same time, either hand. Doesn't matter. I don't have to move my head either. I can just boom, 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 right? They both touch at the same time. That's what I've learned. And I didn't learn that because I wanted to be violent. I learned that because I wanted to be safe. Someone can be bigger than me, stronger than me, doesn't matter. If I catch you, I'm going to break something. And we have to have that level of confidence in whatever art we choose. One thing that a martial artist always told me was a boxer is the most dangerous person in a fight. A boxer. So if you can't learn anything else, you can't learn how to kick, you can't learn how to grapple, you can't learn how to aikido somebody and move their power. If you can't learn any of those things, get boxing gloves, get a punching bag, and just learn combos. Learn different combos like left jab, hook, uppercut. Like learn how to like make things happen. Like learn how to keep your wrists straight when you're punching. Learn how to strengthen this joint, strengthen this. Because in Kung Fu, you strengthen this. Like you see like all that's from punching things, right? So you strengthen certain joints and they become your weapons in the event that you need to defend yourself. We all got to think about this and do this. We have to all get into a space where we realize that your safety is going to be whatever skills you've possessed. Whatever you've taken in is going to be your skill set. And if you want to protect your family and yourself, a gun isn't the only way that you can protect them. Using this, being able to use hand to hand, being able to have, a staff or, a katana at your house. Like I'm all about the ancient ways when it comes to fighting arts because it's a good exercise, but it's also practical. I remember with my siblings and we wrestled a lot with each other. So I learned a lot about grappling and wrestling and takedowns that now, if I ever got into an altercation, I could just take you down really quickly. Like whether it's a foot sweep, whether it's a collapsed foot sweep, whether it's a headlock into a barrel roll, whether it's flipping you over my head. Like I have so many different things that I've learned from wrestling that it'll work with anybody, right? So wrestling, striking, learning how to move power, all of those things are important skills to have just in life because it helps you to keep yourself in a confident space where you're not afraid of violence. You're not afraid to defend yourself against anybody. He's like, do you want this? Do you want some of this or not? Like, I don't want to fight you. I never want to fight people because you should never want to be violent, but we've got to get past this whole, what would Jesus do? Turn the other cheek nonsense. Like if somebody hits you, defend yourself. If somebody threatens to hit you, defend yourself. I'm not going to get hit in the face or have someone try to hit me without me knowing how to, like, you know what I mean? Do something quick. Like there's so many different ways to block. There's so many different ways to protect. We've got to find the time to do this stuff, y'all. So all I'm gonna say is we talked about a book. We talked about the economy going to shit. We talked about your stocks, how to replace that. We talked about these violent acts happening in this country. And I just want y'all to be prepared for more of this shit because this is not random. It's going to keep happening. We have to protect ourselves, and it starts with protecting your mind, protecting your body, your diet, making sure that you're doing the right things for yourself and your family when it comes to where you live, where you buy land, where you want to work, what environments are you around, and knowing that this is a community effort. Like we have to look out for each other. Hey, Sammers, what's up? Fiaz, what's going on? Real water, no tap. What up? Javane, what's going on, brother? Mortal Group. Yeah, that slap, he got slapped, and all of a sudden, man, this guy, he sold out shows. Yeah, but my thing is, y'all, we have to be a community, man. Like we've got to look out for each other. We've got to, because without that unity, without seeing you as my sister and you see me as your brother, then we don't have the level of respect that we need in order to build a community anyway. What's the point of doing this without doing it as a community? What's the point? Why should we all struggle to get the same freedoms that we already had that we just aren't uniting for? Like life is too short for you to think that you have to live in a way that's not healthy or safe. Like violent places, move from there. If you're in a city right now that's a violent city, move. If you're in an environment that is constantly, you're worried about looking over your shoulder when you walk into your door and you can't turn your key without seeing if someone's trying to rob you, move. You don't need to live in places that you are not comfortable in. Now, let's say you cannot move. That's fine. Learn to defend yourself. Learn to learn the people around you. Get to know your neighbor. Get to know the person across the street, the person across the hall from you. Begin to build bonds with the folks that are near you, because guess what? When you start doing that, you get into a space where now you have a level of protection that is more than you. It's everyone around you. Javane, did I speak about firearms? I did, but indirectly. I talked about the fact that hand-to-hand combat is going to be important, and you have to learn how to protect yourself no matter what happens with your hands. How to protect against. I showed this one. This is called full gong sao. It's if someone has a knife, you can literally just move the knife to whichever direction they're coming from, and you can either drop down and punch, or you can hit and just punch right over. So just ways of knowing how to protect yourself, knowing that that's going to be always a thing, because not everyone's going to be able to afford a gun and bullets. Like we have broke ass people that are violent, right? They're not going to be able to afford bullets. So they're going to come with guns, knives, their guns are going to run out of bullets. They're going to have their knives, right? So you're going to have to learn how to defend yourself against those types of things. But if you've never shot a gun before, which I would fall into that category, I have like an airsoft rifle that's not the same, that shoots like BBs. Go to a gun range and learn how to shoot a gun. I've played enough games like Halo, so I know my aim is on point. I know that I just need to do it so I can get the recoil back and understand that. But learning how to operate a weapon, I think, is more important than owning one. Because in the event that you're in a war type of situation, like if you guys know anything about warfare, people go to war with their weapons and they end up shooting the enemy's weapons because they run out of bullets. So you literally like in GoldenEye, like you're literally picking up, oh, here's a rifle, pick up the cartridge. Oh, here's this weapon, drop that one, pick this one up. Those were all training for what actually happens in a war type situation. You will run out of bullets of your own stuff. So you may have to pick up whatever the enemy's got to use. And when all the bullets run out, it comes down to these. So make sure that these work. Because if these don't work, when it's life and death, you die. All right. So folks, what's the last thing I'll say? I'm a big fan of a staff. Hard piece of wood, long, 4 feet, 6 feet, 8 feet. You guys should learn how to use one. There's a woman that I follow. Her name is as an Afro Samurai. What's her name? Something Samurai. Oh man, I know she's gonna be mad if I. Oh, what's her name? Anyway, she's a Black woman. She's like a samurai, and she's self-taught. Amazing. Follow her channel. Like she literally has weapons, and her use of stuff of katanas, and like she's just really good. It's like that's the type of levels that we need to be at. Like get comfortable with using whatever's around you to protect yourself and your family, because you're gonna have to some point. All right, so folks, yeah, good Wealth Wednesday show, y'all. Koziel, I see you. What's going on, bro? Hope you guys had a good show. I mean, a good week. I know this week has been weird with everything happening, but like I said, the economy is gonna get worse. Make sure that you have your bug out plan prepared. Make sure you have food that you need. If you have babies, you saw baby formula all gone. We have to ship it from different places. Like, see how something as simple as baby formula just like literally shut down a government where the president has to sign a bill for baby formula. More of that's coming. We've talked about this for decades, right? But more is coming. I remember one of my buddies back in MetLife would say, oh, we're going to have a market collapse. We were predicting this back in 2008, 2009, 2010, and it never happened. We had a bull market for the last 10 years. Oh, maybe they're right now. Maybe this is what they were talking about, right? So folks, just start diversifying your assets. Start buying low prices stocks if you have them. Like I showed you the one that I had that was higher cars, $20 share I bought last year for $20, about 10 shares, $200. Now it's worth $1. I'm going to spend $100 on Friday, buy 20 shares of it. No, sorry, buy 20 shares of that. Sorry, I'm going to buy 100 shares of it, right? To bring my total to 120 shares, so that if the price goes up by $1, make back all my money. That's a kind of positioning that you have to do right now, because again, all of our portfolios went down, all of them. There is a thing I wanted to show you guys about the 15 stocks, but I'll add the link at the bottom of this live. There are 15 stocks that are actually really good, that are predicted to go up a lot, and dividend stocks. Dividend stocks have trounced the market this year. Here are 15 high yield stocks expected to raise payouts through 2024. I'll read them out to you real quick. EO ticker symbols. So if you got a pen, write it down. Ticker symbol EOG, ticker symbol PPL, ticker symbol MTB, ticker symbol RF, ticker symbol OMC, ticker symbol BKR, ticker symbol AMGN, so N Mary, Gary, Nancy. Ticker symbol PFG. Ticker symbol CFG. Ticker symbol WELL. Ticker symbol VTRS. Ticker symbol VTR. Ticker symbol HBAN. Ticker symbol MO, and ticker symbol C. All of these are stocks whose estimated dividend return is going to be going up from 2% to 3%. One is currently at 4%. One's at 2.7, 4.6, 6.8. And it's estimated to grow from $3 to $5. One's estimated to go to 47% between now and next year. And these are, again, high yield dividend payout stocks. Okay, so that could be a good in-between, angle for you guys to look at to diversify into. Because again, right now, when the market's not moving, but you're guaranteed a dividend, you're going to get some growth, and that to me is, again, better than nothing. So I'll add the link below. It's on marketwatch.com. And it was a Yahoo article that said it's dividend stocks have trounced the market this year. Here are 15 high yield stocks expected to rise payouts the most through 2024. Published May 25th at 11:08 a.m. by Philip Van Dorn. And this was on Yahoo Finance. All right. So, folks, that's it. Thanks for joining us on a Wealth Wednesday. Hope you guys get that book. And that's going to be, step one of this journey, is making sure that we are looking at medical bondage and reading that book and understanding how gynecology even started in this country during the antebellum era. Talked about the economy, and yeah, let's just keep it pushing for 2022. This is not the year to play games. This is not the year to pretend like things are not going to be difficult. Things are going to be tough, but we got to get through it as a community, and we've got to protect each other at all times. Do not be afraid to put your life on the line for somebody and for other people's families. Like, don't be afraid to do that. If you got to sacrifice yourself to save 10, 15 kids, who wouldn't put themselves in that position to save those kids, right? Who wouldn't put themselves in a position to save those folks in Buffalo, right? This can happen in your grocery store, in your hometown tomorrow. Prepare your mind. Understand 15 to 20 rounds. When you hear them going off, get close. Get close. You might be the one that stops a massacre from happening at the next grocery store. All right, folks, be good to each other, be good to yourselves, and we'll see you guys next week, all right? Peace out, YouTube. It's good to have you guys.